Hello, my powerful posse, and welcome back to my channel, Purple RX. I'm Renata, your friendly and resourceful Farm D, and I know I sound really stuffy. Allergy season has just killed me. I was down for a day, really bad, because my sinuses were just they just had me down. My head was pressured, felt like an elephant was sitting on my face. Anyway, so today is Friday, and I thought I'd start a different segment called Freestyle Fridays. Well, in Freestyle Friday, I'm just going to talk about maybe an experience that I've had in life or experiences I've been through, the health and wellness world, my own personal experiences and growth I've had in those. And hopefully that can help you and that can allow you to see that you're not alone, that and maybe even look into your own life to see, is this relating to my experience? How can this help me? How can I be better, do better? So in today's Freestyle Friday, I'm going to talk about my codependence and codependency that I've had in one relationship in particular. I know people are like, oh, most of the time codependency is in relationships with boyfriend, girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. Well, my codependency originally started because I came from a household of drug abuse. Mine originally started in the home, and it started not with my father, but more so with the dynamic with my mother. But I did not really realize that until I would say a year ago, 2, 3 years ago. God was starting to show me some things, and a few years ago, I actually starting at the beginning. So, growing up in that household, I think around the time my mom was my mom was always working. She was trying to work to make up for whatever, if anything was lost, or just to delve into work and dive into work. And she just had that hardworking mentality. That's the family she comes from. And well, my dad's doing his thing, and she's having to contend with that. And then my brother was kind of doing his thing. He was kind of doing his rebellious, or not even rebellious, just being 18, 16, 17-year-old boy, uh, you know, doing what he wanted to do, kind of sneaking out or trying to go over. Just, he kind of wanted more freedom. And so she was contending with that. While I guess I saw all these dynamics and I took it upon myself, didn't know, probably about 14, 15, maybe even 13. I took it upon myself to dim my light and dim who I was and act in a certain way as to not bring any drama or trauma anymore to what the dynamic was already going on. So I was trying to, I was thinking I was alleviating the dynamic. As a 13-year-old kid, you don't know. But I'm thinking, okay, maybe if I chill, I'll put any extra pressure on it, there won't be any issues. Because, I come from a family of reactors. My mom's side, they're reactors. Quick to react sometimes. And I'm honestly, I can say I can be quick to react at times. And I had to learn that in the relationship that I'm in now. That, like, would you chill out? Anyway, so I, at about that age, 13, 14, maybe even 15, I was basically just holding back who I was. I mean, I was I had a mouth on me, but I was kind of just being the good child, not trying to get in any trouble, not doing anything. I literally told myself, I think I was like I was losing kind of, what's the word? Not a grip, but I was kind of like, it's kind of like when you can't wait for something to, like, you're waiting for something you're happen, and it's almost like you're gonna bust. Well, probably about 17, 16, about 17, when I was graduating, I was ready to bust. I was ready to bust because I had played this role for so long in my life to be good and not get any trouble and not have any issues, not cause any issues or any drama, because I just wanted to go. I just wanted to go. And I literally had it in my head, okay, Renata, you've only got like 3 weeks. You've only got like a few more months and you're going to be gone. You're going to be gone to New Orleans and you're going to be out of this. Out of this. So I was like, twiddling at the fig. I was really ready to bust. And I really kind of didn't realize that until now. Like, I to think about that, I was ready to bust. I was like, I think I was got caught up talking on the phone to my boyfriend when I was 16, 17 at like 2 in the morning because I probably couldn't sleep. And I was like getting in little bits of trouble right before I left because I was ready to, like when I say I was ready to bust, I was ready to bust because there was so many parts of me that I had hidden and that I had put aside and that I had kind of just swept under the rug to be a good child or to just not have excess add any more drama. I was trying to keep the peace or add a little bit more peace to what I already thought was chaos. I was trying to minimize the chaos. And so when I turned 17, I ran. Literally, I ran. I thought I was running, and to this day, to not to this day, recently, until recently, I didn't know what I was really running from. Yes, I was running from the chaotic household, but the chaotic household wasn't just one side. I was running from the chaos between, I guess, my parents, the chaos between where I felt I had to hold back part of who I was and I couldn't be fully who I was because that might cause some chaos or some drama. Or my mom might not agree with it if she didn't like it was just stuff like that. So I held back and I had a codependent relationship in that with my mom. And I, like I said, I didn't know until I was older, until I got older. And I noticed that through little things. So codependence, what is that? It's characterized by like an imbalance in relationships where like one person enables another person's addiction or poor mental health or immaturity or irresponsibility or underachievement. And the thing, I think my mom was going through a lot of issues and she probably wasn't taking care of herself, so I was there and I was kind of helping to build her self-esteem. I was kind of helping to, you know, build and give to her and remind her of who she was, but a lot of times I was giving into that, and I was always giving into it. Was just always me giving into that and not really always getting so much back. But I did not realize that until recent years. It wasn't until I actually came back home. So when I came back home 10 years later, I was gone for 10 years. And I cried before I had to come back because one, I loved New Orleans. I had not found myself. I was able to be myself in New Orleans. It wasn't that I needed to find who I was. I knew part of a lot of who I was. I was just hiding a lot of who I was because a lot of who I was I'm a Leo, so I was naturally confident. I was not kind of, but I could be a loner. I went to a city that I didn't really know anybody in. My aunt's ex-in-laws lived there, but I didn't really know anybody in there. Yes, it was for college, but I stayed there for 10 years. I lived alone. I like being alone. I'm the introvert. I guess what they call my personality is INJ INJF, assertive. I don't know. That's like only 2% of the population has what my personality is. And it really describes me as I'm an intuitive person and I like to help people with their situations. I can intuitively and I'm an empath. I can empathize with you and feel your situation and help you through it. But sometimes you get caught in people's situations like that. And as my parents were going, I was in undergrad when I had just graduated undergrad and my parents were officially going through a divorce. And I was getting caught up in that. And I was getting caught up in it, and you kind of don't want to take sides, but you end up getting caught in one side or the other. And I was getting caught up in that because what my mom had built was at the age of 14 and 15, at the age of 15, I think it was 14, 15, ninth grade, 10th grade, my mom had kind of separated from my father, and me and my mom lived together. So she built what we call as a friendship. And I was supposed to be her friend, and we had a great friendship for a while until I found out It wasn't a friendship that was conducive for me. But it wasn't until the past 3 years that I really got to see that God really showed me that. That God really showed me there's some things that you have to let go, or this relationship is not what you think it is. And it's okay for mothers and daughters not to be best friends or be friends. And it's okay for us to just be mother and daughter. That's okay. But I had the understanding of this dynamic being a friendship. And then when I really needed a friend, it was hard because I was like, this is not friendship like. And it wasn't anything that was violating towards her or anything, but it wasn't very open or supportive when I needed support. And support does not mean you agree with me. Support does not mean you believe in everything I do. But support's a me sometimes trying to understand. Look past yourself. That's support to me. That is what I understand support as. And at a few years ago, I just wasn't getting that. As dynamics were changing, as somebody new came into my life, I wasn't getting that. I wasn't getting that at all. But it also brought to light what this relationship really was, that there was an imbalance in this relationship, and I was giving more than I really got. And it wasn't a friendship, and it wasn't what I thought it was supposed to be. And I started notice I noticed little things like over years. Like I think one time she bought a house, and it was just she was supposed to buy a house. I wasn't gonna live in her house. I was gonna live there for maybe a year until I found a place where I was gonna stay, whether it was gonna be Fort Worth, Dallas, or whatever. And she was like, "Here, I need you to help me pick a house." I was like, "I ain't. This ain't my house. I'm not living here. I mean, I'm staying here for a year, but I don't get to decide what my room look like or what does it have to do." I was like, "Why do you? I don't need to look and find a house for you. That's your house. You tell me what house you are, I will go there. If you just want to say how it looks and this, that, and this, or when my opinion would sometimes be like, this is not my style, but hey, if you like it, it's great." And I just started noticing things that, like, even when just the dynamics were no longer what they were when I started really speaking my mind or my heart, or speaking something that may have struck fear or worry at her, and then that person, and then she just projected it onto me. So say for example, I started a business. Well, actually, I started a business by myself, and my fiance was helping me. He was just helping me with little stuff because he had already developed one of his own, but he was just helping me with little stuff, and he was going to do part of this and part of that. And so when that happened, it would be things would be said like, "Well, you remember when it would turn into something about her and what happened in her past, in her life in the past, and how that panned out." And so I was like, okay, this is not about you and so and so and so and so and so and so. This is me and somebody else. And I get our parents don't want us to live the life that they lived. They don't want us to make the same mistakes that they made. They don't they don't think we're watching. They don't think we're paying attention. Um, but I watched. I paid attention. I was in the middle of all the chaos, and I was dealing with the chaos, and I was helping her navigate through the chaos with her. And for every time something comes up, for that person to project their issue of their own personal issue into your life, and it was daunting. And so when I saw there was real codependence was when there kept being a projection, and I took it like I kind of took it to heart, like, why am I worried about what she thinks of my life? I'm 30 something years old. Why am I worried about if my mom's okay with it? Why am I worried if my mom agrees or doesn't agree with it? That was one. And the reason I wasn't even looking for her to agree. I was just looking for someone not to project their own issues onto me. I was looking for somebody to openly and objectively talk about a subject. And it wasn't a thing of how do I word it? It was a thing, it was more of a, let's see. Just every time I even came with something happy or something I wanted to do, even in my own personal endeavors, where I quit my job and I wanted to, and well, basically end up getting fired, but because they found somebody 2 weeks later, and I went through that whole process, and she was like, well, and I was like, well, how do you know me and God hadn't had this talk for a long time, and He's directed me in a different way? Well, you ain't looking for another job. Things like that. Those things is it. Again, I never needed anybody to agree with me. I never needed anybody to not have their own objective point or their own objective thought. But you want to have open conversation as an adult. Why can't you hear my thought? Why is it every time my thought or my heart comes out, it's you don't really pay attention or listen or hear? And I brought this conversation up to my mom. I think I texted her about it, and then we had to talk about it, about this being codependent. And I don't think she could still see it, or she didn't want to see what it was, and that's okay. So how did I navigate this? What made me have to change the dynamics was, one, I got in a relationship with with a great person. I believe God has made this person for me, and I started acting in a very independent, imbalanced way, and in a very crazy. And he was like, "Where is this coming from?" It wasn't like it was 2 years later. I started acting in a imbalanced, codependent, and he's like, "Where is this coming from? Where does this all come from?" And that's what made me go back and view, where did I get this thought from? This feeling, this I feel I have to act this way when this person acts that way. Where did I feel that I have to dim my light or imbalance, or make this imbalance in a relationship and try and, give more than they're giving, or do this and do that and this, that, and this? Where did I do that? Because in a lot of relationships, I sometimes give more, not because I need their attention. It's just because I'm kind of a natural giver in my leadership and as in my personality. I'm just a person that, hence why I'm alone a lot of times. Hence why, not a lot of times, hence why I like to be by myself. Because a lot of times when I go in groups of people, if I don't know you, I'm not really all of a sudden going to come up to you and talk to you. I'm not that person. I'm not that person that just comes up and talks to everybody or talks to anybody. I like just look at the room, look around. I'm not the best at networking. Most people came to me, and that's not to say something, but most people came to me because I was never a go-to them kind of person. But once you get to know me, I won't stop talking, and I can talk. But I'm just more of a person that's going to be perceptive and observant and listen and look and do all of that. You think I'm not, but I am. I've already scoped out how everybody's pattern is and what everybody's doing and how everybody's doing it. I've already scoped that out. Because that's the kind of person that I am. I've scoped out, he's that kind of person because he's done this pattern. He's that kind of person because he's done this pattern. And there are obvious norms, and there are obvious people that go against the norm, and that I'm not going to be able to understand that person or something like that. But for the most part, we all kind of have our patterns. It's just easier to be that way, to live in patterns. Even people without patterns, that's a pattern. So I'm not that person to like go up and talk to a whole bunch of people or go out and do that. But once I get in, I'm in, and I'm a giver. And sometimes I have a habit of giving before somebody else does, or giving just because I love to give, and I love to give to people that I love and people that I meet, and give, and whatever energy and love and passion that I have, I hope to spread that around. Hence why I decided might as well do YouTube. So that was the whole point. But I have to have boundaries. And so that is something I've learned into this. No matter what kind of relationship it is, codependent, boundaries are important. And I've had to set boundaries. And how do you do it with a parent? How do you set a boundary with a parent that you've had a close relationship with and that you told everything to? I had to like not say anything anymore. Because every time I said something that maybe she didn't like, or it looked like her old situation, or she didn't know about it, and it wasn't something, an idea that she would do or anything like that, or it was going against her fear or her issue, it was always projected onto me. And it's fine. I am not against anybody having their own opinion. I'm against people projecting their issues and their problems onto me where you feel I have to take that on. I'm not here to take on anybody else's issues. I'm not here to take on anybody else's fears, anybody else's problems, anybody else's anything. I got enough of my own. How can I take on yours? And at that point, I was like, I can't keep taking this on. And what I didn't know for years was I was taking on her negative energy and her negative burdens. And I was taking it away from her because I knew how to deal with the negativity. She just didn't know how to deal with it. And for so long, I dealt with her negativity, her burdens, her issues, and took that away. And that's why I think our relationship she loved our relationship, and it was so close to her because it allowed her to do that. And she got rid of her negativity, but it was onto me. And it was trying to drop that burden on me. Because I noticed probably the last 3 or 4 years ago, after talk, I was like, why God is making us God made us more sensitive in this time, not just Corona, but before Corona, like 2000, I think it was 2018, 2019, 2020. People were more sensitive. He was making people more sensitive so that people could realize maybe you need a boundary here. Maybe this situation isn't for you. Maybe you need to look deeper in this and see, why are you being triggered? Is there some issue you haven't dealt with? And he showed me that there's something you're not noticing here. There's some things that you're not paying attention that's going on here. You know, there's some situations you need to really look at and see, this may be an unhealthy dynamic, and this is where that dynamic is coming from. If you don't cut this off now or change this now, you're going to pass this on to your children. You're going to have a codependent relationship with your fiance, even though there would be no issue. You're making it codependent. You're going to have a codependent relationship with this person and that person, or you're going to have, if you don't set the boundaries for yourself. Hold on 1 second. I got to blow my nose. Okay. I'm back. And so it was something that he made me sensitive to. Like, I think she was saying, she started saying something about, it may have been about my dad. And I think I was just over it. And I was like, okay, I don't want to hear any more gossip about him. I don't really care. Please don't bring that to me anymore. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I was over it. I was over that. She was already remarried. I was just over it. It was just something I could no longer talk about, no longer hold on to, no longer keep bringing up over and over and over again, and reliving something that I don't need to relive. I lived in it once. Reliving it was not going to help me get through it, heal from it, or take anything away from it. And so that's when I knew, I started seeing that my relationship with a parent was not as healthy as I thought. And so that led me to, I was praying to God, and I was like, God, I don't know how to do this. And he's like, be quiet. Don't tell her. Don't tell her anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And so I started just doing my own thing. Didn't say anything. Didn't do this. Didn't murmur a word. Didn't murmur a word. And didn't murmur a word at all. Stopped saying anything. And that made her feel some kind of way. Whew. That made her feel some kind of way. Because she didn't know the ins and outs of everything in my life. So that made her feel some kind of way. Even though she didn't know all the ins and outs before, I gave her enough, I guess, to keep her on a stick. But there was just some things I could no longer tolerate. You know, there is just some things I can no longer tolerate. If you got issues with my weight, maybe you have issues with your own weight. Just some things I can no longer tolerate. And I couldn't carry on because I did not want that for my child. And I did not want that for another relationship in my life. I did not want that. And there's all some things that we're going to have to cope with or not cope with, but overcome and heal from. And this was just mine because I asked God to go to another level, to do another thing, and to do something bigger that I knew I could do. And in that aspect, like I said, so I started not saying too much. Because whenever I said something, it was just like a quick reaction. And it was just like her issue. It turned into her issue. And I just was like, okay, this is draining. Talking to you is draining. And so I didn't talk for a while. I didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything for a long time. Didn't say anything about anything. I think me and Eric moved in together. Didn't she? She was just, she didn't, I didn't say anything about that for probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. She's like, y'all been living together and blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah. I mean, that didn't bother me. I knew she was going to have something to say about that. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. And probably my brother ended up telling her because he gonna tell everything. But anyway, so because he don't care. But see, the thing about it is, my brother and my mother have a different dynamic than me and my mother. My brother was like, whatever, you go if you're gonna hassle me about it, I'll just tell you. You can go and have your little flip day and this. But I think I was so hurt by that dynamic was because I thought we were friends. You know how you're in a relationship and you think you're friends with somebody and you find out that it's really not a healthy friendship, or it's not a friendship that's really for you, or this is not a true friend dynamic or a healthy friend dynamic? That kind of hurt your feelings after 15, 20 years and you like, I thought we was friends. But no, but I mean, I guess you can be friends with a parent, because I've seen people have a friend dynamic with their parent, but the parent is also parenting and going to give advice, but they're going to know their child going to do whatever they want and let them make mistakes. But I think that's what hurt the most was the dynamic was not going to be the same. And I think that's what I'm having a hard time with right now is I've been in that dynamic for so long and now it's having to change, and I'm just not saying anything to her. And then I think I lied about a few things, and that's where I was like, you know what, Mom? I apologized to her. I said, you know what? I was wrong. I said, because I lied and didn't about a few things when I didn't have a job, and when I had a job and I didn't have a job, and this, that, and this, and I lied. And I said, it's not really so much I said, it's partly because of your reaction, maybe because of this, we've got a codependent relationship. And I felt that I did a lot of things to appease you, and that's not what I want to do anymore. I don't want to live my life to appease you. You don't have to be okay with my life. All I need is God to be okay with my life, not you. And the things that he has for me, you're not going to be able to see because they're for me. The things that he has for my life, you won't be able to see because he ain't gave you the mission. He gave me the mission. He told me to do these things. He told me to handle this thing. And so that is something I had to contend with, and just being quiet and not saying anything, and not even saying a whole bunch of stuff about my life because she want to know, because she used to be like, oh, how much are you making over there? How much? I used to be like, and I think one time she asked a question to me. She was like, are you struggling? And I like, after I had lost my job, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of struggling. And she was like, do you want to struggle for the rest of your life? And I was like, oh, what? How did that come from? Because I'm struggling right now. And I was like, so she sees it in one way, that just because I don't have as much money as I had before, the only struggle is me getting over that. There was no struggle with the money. I was handling bills. I was still living a pretty good life. And I was able to get money for my business, try and find another job if that was for me, which I didn't think it was for me anymore, but I was going to try it. And the only struggle I was having was the only struggle I was probably having more so was the struggle of transitioning. Sometimes in transition, we're fighting something that we know is for us, but because it's not what we're normally or what we're used to, it's hard. Just like this is kind of a struggle. Being quiet with my mom was kind of a struggle, but I had to do it. God asked me to do it, and I found out why He asked me to do it. Because when I did it the way I thought I should do it or tell her, it just wasn't gonna go. It wasn't going to be an open conversation. It wasn't going to be a relationship where I could have an open conversation as an adult woman with my mother from a business standpoint, from this standpoint, from that standpoint. Because He gave me the vision and it was something that she could see. And that's okay. And that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. I ain't going, there's nothing to complain about. I just know it's a different dynamic. And that, it's no longer that relationship is no longer there, but I'm okay with that because I will be better off without that relationship being that way. Because if I kept my relationship that way, I would be stuck trying to please other people for a life that God has asked me to do. Because trust, ain't nobody gonna be happy with stuff I do that He's asked me to do or the things that I am supposed to do. Some people ain't gonna agree. That's fine. But I had to get out of that habit of trying to appease or keep her happy to keep her mood down because I had been doing that since I was 15. I had been trying to keep the peace since I was like 15. Keep it subtle, keep the peace. Don't do too much. But I can no longer live my life to appease somebody else. That was just like the thing that was the most freeing. So sometimes the best bet is to be quiet, step back. Have the dynamic is going to be different. And from now on, the dynamic with my mother will probably be different. It'll probably be very different. And that's just a life that I'm going to have to live with. But I think I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for being aware of who I am and God allowing me to see what He's doing and being able to take the steps to do it, because that was a part of my life that was keeping me in a way stuck in my actions, stuck in how I communicate or see things, stuck in one way of it was just limiting me. It was very limiting towards me, and I don't want to be limited anymore. I asked God to take the limits off some time ago. So I have to accept the limits that He takes off and not fight them. And sometimes that's what struggle is. We're fighting what He's trying to change in us, what He's trying to see in us and give and put within us and put in our lives and take us in new directions. He's trying to take us in a new direction and we're still trying to do this same old thing. And I just was sitting there like, no, I can't. I'm going to have to have faith and do what God asks. Be quiet about some things, let some things go, because I could no longer, it was just draining to take that projection. But boundaries is going to be the most important thing you can do in your life. For your future children, for your future relationships, have boundaries. Know what works for you and what doesn't. Know when you have to step back. And those are things that I've really learned in this. And it's also helped me in my own relationship of having boundaries and having better communication and better understanding and being more open in certain ways and in certain aspects. And not trying to project what I think should happen instead of what really, let God see what happened and let Him show you and direct you. So I hope that little story helped you guys out. It allowed me to vent and allowed me to get what I needed to get out, but also hopefully direct you guys in a direction to look at codependence, even codependence in family relationships and relationships that you never thought there would be codependence in. Because I never thought, oh, my codependence would lie in that. I thought maybe I would take that codependence and put it into another relationship or my codependence would be with somebody, but it ended up being me exhibiting that and taking it somewhere else, and already taking it somewhere. And then I had to be like, nope, everybody's got boundaries now. Everybody's got a excuse me? Everybody's got a boundary now. So I hope that it allows you to grow, to know, to find something better and get something better in your life, and understand and be aware of your own feelings, of your own patterns in your own life, and of patterns going on around you. So thank you guys for listening to, I guess, a rant. For listening to what has gone on in my life, and hopefully that'll help you in your life. Thank you.